Hey guys, welcome back. We are now in week 10, and we would normally start class with a WTL, just asking about how things are going in the class. But what I want you guys to do instead is to refer to the discussion post posted under week 10 materials. And I want this, because our class has taken such a major shift, I want this to be more focused on online learning. So I want to know if the way that things are currently structured is working for you, if there's anything that I can do to make this more productive and fruitful of an experience for you, and just any general concerns that you have in regards to class or not, just anything that you're willing to share. Anything that I can do or that you can do to make this experience better. So make sure that you do answer that discussion post by Sunday. I've just decided to have everything turned in on Sundays now, just to make it easier for you all to remember when assignments are due and to keep track of deadlines and all that. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of a workshop, and this might be a shorter lecture, but we're talking about how to eliminate wordiness. So here we have a chart of, on the left side, phrases that are very wordy. So some examples are at this point in time. That could just be turned into now. It's a much more concise way to say the same exact thing. Another one that we can see on the left-hand side is, in spite of the fact that, you could easily just turn that into if. So the purpose of this is to not bog down your reader or your stakeholder with all of these words when really it can be said in a much more concise way. And this will greatly strengthen your writing, just making this simple little change. Here's another chart with some more examples. So instead of saying at that point in time, you could easily just say then. Or due to the fact that, you could say because. So look through these and see if there are any of them that you often tend to use on the left-hand side. And if there are, then make sure that you start changing those for some of the words on the right-hand side. Another thing I wanted to talk about is eliminating redundancies. So phrases like past history, those two things are saying the same thing. So you can either say past or you can say history. But putting those together doesn't make much sense and adds to the wordiness. Referring back, if you're referring to something, you're already looking back, so you don't have to say refer back. Harmful assault. Assault, it's already inherent in the word that it would be harmful. So again, it's very redundant. And so are the last two bullets that you look at here. So the point of all of this is that you want to be concise and you want to be clear. So you also want to avoid using vagueness. So some vague words that I noticed while in some of your papers while I was looking at your A2s are people. Who specifically are we talking about here? Are we talking about Americans? Are we talking about children? Are we talking about teenagers or, middle class people? You want to be as specific as possible when you refer to people. So one thing that I saw a lot is someone saying, people need to fix this. Well, who is the people? Or people are at blame for this. Who are the people that are at blame? Another one that I saw a lot is things. So you want to be more specific and tell us what kind of things you're referring to. Stuff, same thing. Society, what part of society are we talking about? Is it the middle class society? Is it, American society? Americans, which group of Americans are we talking about? And then if you're talking about the government, then maybe mention what kind of government. So is it the local government, the state or federal, or is it specific agencies within the government? So the point of that is be specific with words that have ambiguous meanings. So other examples of this are effects. The word effects is used so often, and you want to make sure that you're telling us whether these are positive or negative effects. Consequences, again, are these positive or negative? For change, is it an increase or a decrease? Is it a positive or a negative change? If you're talking about the impact that something has, how severe is this impact? If you're talking about the influence, same sort of thing. To what degree is it being influenced? So just keep these in mind and look out for them when you are writing your A3s. Just it's a good idea to be as concise as possible, and it'll really strengthen your writing. So now let's talk about citing database sources in MLA format. So you already have some experience with citing regular sources, but none of you, as far as, at least not in this class, none of you have cited peer-reviewed sources yet. So it's pretty similar. You still order things in alphabetical order, but notice that oftentimes there are more than one author with peer-reviewed sources. So you'll list the first two, and then if there's more than two, you'd want to put et al. So like just cluing you in that there are more authors essentially. So ETAL. And then you put the article title, the title of the journal that this was published in. If there's a volume number, issue, or a date, or page numbers, you want to include those. And then you would want to include the name of the database. So in this case, that's a Wiley online library, and the DOI or URL. So here, in this case, they've included the DOI. And the DOI is a digital object identifier. So it's a unique and permanent string of letters and numbers representing an article or document that will take you to that article wherever it is located on the web. So DOI numbers provide a permanent link to an article, essentially. So for citing popular sources, this is just a little bit of review because you should already know how to do this, but it has been a while since we turned in A2, so just as a reminder, you would list the authors or author, the article title, so in this case that's Pathmark Closures, Jars, East Harlem, and then the publication title, which in this case is Wall Street Journal, and then the volume, issue, date, or page number. So in this case, it looks like they didn't have a volume or issue, but they did have a date to include. And then the name of the database from where you found the source. So in this case, that is the Academic Search Premier, and your DOI or URL. So keep in mind that your popular sources should all still come from the database. It doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all, that you can just go out and look for any website online and that's an okay source to use. It should still come from the database. So next let's talk about how you can focus your research a little bit more, because most of you are still in that research phase of this process. So if you still have questions that are unanswered about your given topic, you may want to make two columns. Entitle one, What I Know, and the other one, What I Want to Know. And then start with what you know and write down everything that you already know or that you've learned before about this topic. And then when you take a look at your right-hand side where you list what you want to know, write down any questions that you have. Think about, is there a specific stakeholder or perspective that you want to learn about? Are there still areas that you don't fully understand? Are there sources that show different ideas than what you've already found? And then I want you to list 4 to 5 stakeholders in the issue. So you can do this on your own sheet of paper at home. And when you list your stakeholders, list what their stake in this issue is. Because depending on that list of stakeholders, you may find one that you want to target more than the rest, essentially. So also think about whether or not you have sources that discuss their stake um, in your argument paper. And these can be written by the stakeholder, but they can also maybe only mention them.